This feels like so many years in coming. In fact, maybe for me, centuries. Interestingly enough, and I didn't know whether I'd share this bit, but I think I got to. Of course, Angelina and I started this journey really with Our Lady of the Cape maybe 3 years ago, and then of course many of you know we met with Bishop Tremblay. He so kindly allowed us to install the pilgrim statue of Our Lady of the Cape in our Blessed Sacrament. And all this stuff was happening, and I really hadn't understood or known my own, since the word came up, DNA to this place. And it's really quite remarkable because God really has a sense of humor, because I just found out all of this stuff afterwards. I mean, after everything that had transpired. So it turns out that my great-grandfather was born here in Trois Rivers 1 month after the miracle of the ice bridge. And because he was a well-known Quebec author, there's actually a genealogy. So I was able to trace my genealogy, if you can imagine. I'm actually 12th generation to one of the founding families here in Trois Rivers. In fact, the family, Pierre Boucher, his beans are in this shrine, if you can imagine. So I have a legitimate family connection to be speaking to you today. So it's really quite remarkable. And they've probably been saying, what took you so long? You're almost 60. Anyways, the history of this place, this whole geographic place, is absolutely remarkable. It's remarkable in that, the means of the rosary is the means of evangelization. And this particular place, Cape de la Madeleine, has employed the rosary for literally centuries to bring souls to Christ. And our belief that Our Lady of the Cape, Queen of the Holy Rosary, should be really known throughout the world as much as Our Lady Guadalupe, Fatima, and Lourdes, which is a very specific message. And as the Bishop was talking earlier, confraternities connect us. And this is the birthplace, really, of the confraternity in the New World, this connection place that goes back to the 1600s. So I'm going to be drawing from a book I discovered that was written in, I guess it was 1954. The author's name is James Gerard Shaw. And he first arrived here at Cape de la Madeleine in 1948, and it was on the day that Elizabeth Noel left her wheelchair, if you can imagine, had a complete healing. Her plaque is the first one right here. It says Elizabeth Noel, 1948, August 15th, the Assumption. So this author from England, interestingly enough, after that point in time, incredible wordsmith, ends up becoming the actual editor of the annals, because Cape de la Madeleine did a very good job of every month documenting what was going on here. And James Shaw was tasked with editing it, and he ended up writing a book on Cape de la Madeleine. And this is really what's led to the discovery of so much that has been discovered. Now, I don't have time to get into the whole history. I can tell you, you may have seen this on the table. It says, Our Lady of the Cape, her story, your story. And again, as Bishop Tremblay said, we're being written and grafted into this story in our time. This story has been going on since the 1600s. And we are today's version being resurrected and renewed in this story. So I'm going to go through some highlights of it, and then we're going to listen to the actual 1904 crowning that took place on these very grounds. And that beautiful plaque there, you can see, I guess it's marbleized, you see it says 1904 on it. That marks the actual crowning. It lists all of the different bishops and archbishops that were present at that time. So quite remarkable. Now, Our Lady of the Cape is Queen of the Holy Rosary. Look at on top, it says, Reine du Très Saint Rosaire, priez pour nous. I mean, it's even emblazoned in the shrine here. And the Magnificat is right underneath. So as we spend time contemplating in this place, I mean, Father Roger, I mean, when you shared this morning, you were resonating with every soul that's ever sat here, that's ever been healed here. There's been tons of crutches all over the place. And I think they were all really excited this morning. Like, praise the Lord. So, as I said, I'm going to go through it rather quickly, but I hope that a number of you will maybe take the opportunity to listen to the CD. And one more little story about Father Roger, because I called him all excited about this, and I said, hey, you gotta listen to this. And he listened to it from Toronto to Kingston, immediately called us, and I'm glad I didn't answer the phone, because I still have it recorded, and says, I knew it was gonna be good, but it was even better than I thought. I was in tears many times. This story is such a story of promise and hope. Promise and hope. And this place is a place of promise and hope. And we have been invited by Our Lady directly to come and discover that. So let's go quickly back to the 1600s. And someone that really doesn't get a lot of attention, his name is Father Jacques Bouteau. Father Jacques Bouteau was a Jesuit priest. He was martyred, thrown in the St. Maurice River in 1652. If I had my way, he'd be one of the Canadian martyrs, quite frankly. Because he would come from Three Rivers over to this piece of ground. This was all fur trading ground. And he would come and meet with the Atikamekw, the First Nations people. And he befriended a First Nations chief. And this First Nations chief of the Atikamekw went back to his tribe and evangelized the whole tribe, if you can imagine. All of them. They'd never seen a priest. And in 1651, finally, Father Jacques Bouteau made his way. And can you imagine? He made his way and he saw these First Nations people. They had their rosaries. They knew the rosary. They knew their beads. They were even praying for the dead. They knew the faith. They were evangelized by their own. It's such a beautiful story of reconciliation. It shows you, that the Mother of God is the mother of us all. We're all broken, right? So here's this beautiful priest, Father Jacques Bouteau, who actually is responsible for, believe it or not, naming this place. Because upon his return in 1651 was a letter that had come from France, from Father Jacques Beltais. And that priest had granted the land to the Jesuits, and because the name of the church in France was Saint Madeleine Church, they ended up calling this place Cap de la Madeleine. That's how it got its name. And what's so special about Mary Magdalene? Where was she situated? At the cross, right? She was at the foot of the cross. So there's just such a beautiful connection. So Father Jacques Bouteau, as I said, is martyred in 1652. But then we're going to fast forward to 1694. And I'm almost positive it's been, I don't know, could be 100 years. But the first diocesan parish priest of this place was Pastor Paul Vachon. Pastor Paul Vachon. And he is the one who petitioned the Master General of the Dominican Order, Antonin Clush at the time, to have the confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary established here. And I have affectionately called Luke, who works here, Indiana Jones, because he discovered the actual real one. This is it. It's been stuck in the archive for I don't know how long. But this is it. This is the actual 1694 document that established the confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary here before there's even a Canada or a United States, right? This is the New World. It's 1694. Now, the other thing that Pastor Paul Vachon did was he is responsible for overseeing this shrine, the old shrine, and it would have ended there, of course, being built. And interestingly enough, when you look at the plaque, the actual inauguration, I think is May 13th, 1720. So Pastor Paul Vachon really has a rich and important heritage, and again, someone who really isn't a common everyday word around the Cape, but he should be, because his digging in the mud, his little steps of faith, you were sharing, 350 years later, here we are, because Pastor Paul Vachon petitioned the Master General and was part of having the shrine built. Otherwise, we're not even here. And what was really neat, this was a very, very impoverished church community here at the Cape. And what was really interesting is the collections to build this whole place actually came from all over what would become Canada. So really, Canada built the shrine. They didn't have enough money here to build it themselves. So donations were brought from all over the place. Now, when Pastor Paul Vachon died, unfortunately, the faith really died with him. And it died for over like 115 years. In fact, so much so that they even wanted the light, the sacramental light for the Blessed Sacrament to be extinguished. Nobody was coming here. I mean, he was dead as a doornail. So just think of the profound nature of that, because of course God's outside of time, knows what he's going to do in the future, but here's letting this place just really die and suffocate for over a century. And then 1867, well actually 1864, Father Luc de Selaire does finally arrive at the shrine, and in his own strength really for the next 3 years tries a lot of things that really, quite frankly, just fail. It's okay to fail. It's okay to fail. Sometimes we don't get it right. But he was persistent. And in 1867, 2 months before our country, the confederation of our country, was the night that he asked people to come to confession. And this would have been in the presbytery. It wasn't here. The presbytery was separate than this building. Of course, there was nowhere for him to live. He wasn't like, Brother Andre living in a loft. For those of you, Brother Andre, right? Looks over the... So no, that wasn't Father Luke's case. There was a presbytery. So on the Feast of the Ascension, of course, many of you know the story. He comes in here after, really to pour his heart out because nobody had come to confession. And at that time, this statue, the miraculous statue, as you heard from Sister Lucille last night, was actually over here. And this was the confraternity altar. He really came to come pour his heart out. As we all know, he discovered a pig chewing on a rosary, which was not an exciting thing to obviously discover. I mean, that's really, really bad. He was quite sorrowful. And as James Shaw writes, because we don't have the exact account, but he says you could just imagine him pouring his heart at the communion rail, looking at the confraternity list that was unchained on the wall and saying, you know what, I'm going to make a vow to renew the confraternity. Men have dropped the rosary and the swine have picked it up. And that one vow by that one humble man transformed this place into now becoming Canada's National Marian Shrine. That was in 1867. So here's another precious, precious archive item that I'm almost positive has never been seen here since then. This is this dear priest's register from 1867. And you actually see, Luke descendant, 1867. And all of these names, you know how you were signing it? It was so beautiful for me to see you coming to the table. 2 or 3 thick, I had to put up more than one sheet. I want in. I want to be part of the confraternity. I want to be part of the community. He spent the next 5 years enrolling 3,000 souls. Right here's all the pages and pages. Amazing. That's what turned this place around, because Our Lady was able to use, once again, the means to bring the faithful back to Christ. So, all of you that have enrolled, these are we've already brought hundreds and hundreds of names here. We've been doing this for a while now. And then these are, hundreds plus your names today. So these are going to be placed in the archives with his register together. Just really connecting us over the annals of time, because we are connected eternally. So Father Luke, after seeing so much success here, of course the church needed to be a bigger church. They needed a bigger church. I'm not going to dwell on the ice bridge. It is an incredible account. Again, it's all documented in here. But if you get an opportunity, what I will say is go to the river and just look to the other side. I know the first time I did that, I said, they must have been nuts. To come across the other side. It was. I can't imagine it. In fact, when they first started circling the parish, many men did kind of flee, say, they're coming to collect people to go across that ice bridge. I ain't doing that, So it took a while until everybody was fortified, but then they started coming from all over the place. And it is an incredible account. And what I love about it is, yes, there was a miracle of the ice bridge, but it still required faith and trust for the promise and the hope to be realized, so that they could build that bigger church. That whole wall at the far end, those are all stones from the miracle of the ice bridge. Right over there. And you'll notice also around the property in the front, there's some, so funny, because once I just like getting artifacts, but Angela said, you can't do that. So I didn't. I felt like that was a little piece. Anyways, a previous archivist gave me a little piece, so I feel good. That's on my desk. And the bishop knows about it. It's okay. It's been sanctioned. Reminds me, right? The ice bridge is an incredible story. So then we move along, and Father Luke's promise was that he would dedicate, he wouldn't tear this place down, he dedicated to Our Lady, Queen of the Holy Rosary in 1888 is when it happened. That is actually when the statue was transferred to what was also the confraternity altar. It was for that June 22nd date. June 22nd, isn't that interesting that that's when our country was consecrated in 1947, the same date, June 22nd. So this happens, and of course, who arrives? Blessed Frederick. I know there's a whole bus that has gone over to see Blessed Frederick's tomb at the Franciscans today. And Blessed Frederick really became the first pilgrimage director because unfortunately 2 months after the dedication of the shrine, Father Luke died. And it was like his work was done, he was in good health, but he died very sadly. And Blessed Frederick and his curé, Father Duguay, who was there's another guy that should be known more and more as Father Duguay. I mean, his accounts are amazing. He's the reason why we have a lot of records here. And you know, it's important that we know these things. It's important that we learn them. These are our history, these are our Marian heritage, and it grounds us in what connects us. So, Blessed Frederick and Father Duguay basically were part of this whole upswing of the shrine over the next 20 years and really got us to this place where finally it was too much for them. And thankfully in 1902, the Oblates of Mary Immaculate came, and within 2 years, oh my gosh, what was accomplished here through the Oblates. And again, that is an amazing, amazing story. So what we're going to do now is actually listen to the crowning. It's written by James Shaw. And what a beautiful thing to be able to do in the presence of the statue that was actually crowned. The Queen is crowned. The year 1904 was a year of great Marian solemnities throughout the world. It was the golden jubilee of the definition of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. The Commission of Cardinals in Rome had drawn up a program for the year which Canada's bishops published, faithfully and fulfilled separately in their own dioceses. In Trois Rivieres, Bishop Cloutier profited by the intensely Marian atmosphere to recommend an increase in fidelity and fervor at the shrine in Cape Pilgrim Experience. Each parish of the diocese will make it a duty, this year most particularly, to make a pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Cape Pilgrim Experience. There had been no single national manifestation plan, but Our Lady apparently wanted one, and she provided it at the Cape. It started when Father Emile Jonquet arrived at the shrine on April 9, 1904, to assist Father Dozois and to become editor of the annals. Father Jonquet came from one of the Marian shrines of France, whose anti-clerical government had been closing down these places chosen by Our Lady and driving the religious who guarded them from the country. The great round meaning of the whole story of Cape Pilgrim Experience as a continuance of the tradition of old France had turned full cycle. As the shadows fell on Mary's shrines in the old world, the curtain was about to rise on the full splendor of the little spot the first arrivals from a better France had prepared for her in the new. The new edition of the Guardians of the Shrine had been Superior Notre Dame de Talence. He had visited most of the major Marian shrines of the nation, particularly those in the care of his fellow Oblates. He was in a position to make comparison, and it did not take him long to recognize that here was a true shrine. He was soon writing to Rome saying, "I have seen almost all our Oblate shrines in France. Apart from Montmartre and Pomey, I have not seen anywhere more activity or more devotion than there is here." The occasion of this letter was a request that the statue of Our Lady of the Cape be granted the right to wear, by papal authority, the crown indicative of Our Lady's queenship over angels and men. The privilege of being crowned solemnly in the name of the sovereign pontiff is a rare one granted only to statues of the most honored and most frequented places of pilgrimage. It had been granted just 9 years previously to Mexico's national Madonna, Our Lady of Guadalupe. No other statue in Canada had received it, nor, as far as is known, in the United States. From the story of the Cape, from the many reports of unusual favors, and from the evidence of piety and pilgrimage before his eyes, Father Jonquet knew that the statue of Our Lady of the Cape could meet the requirements for this honor. When Bishop Cloutier was approached, he was delighted with the idea. Your project of having the Blessed Madonna of Cape Pilgrim Experience crowned by the Holy See is one whose realization I ardently wish. What will the highest blessing of the Church and the august act by which His Holiness will crown the venerated statue of the Virgin not do to foster the action of Mary and the zeal of your fathers? I can easily see that the lovable little shrine will be more widely known than ever before and more cherished, that people from afar will share the joy and have a new zeal for making their pious pilgrimages. The
The formal request was made to Father Joseph Lemieux, Procurator of the Oblates at the Holy See. The letter was accompanied by a summary of facts about the shrine. It also urged haste so that the crowning can take place before the pilgrimage season ended in that Jubilee year, and requested that Bishop Cloutier be asked to perform the ceremony. The documents left the Cape on April 24, 1904. On May 27, Cardinal Mary de Val addressed a favorable answer to the Bishop of Three Rivers. Father Joseph Dozois, of the Congregation of Oblates of Mary Immaculate, rector of the Shrine of Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary at Cape de la Madeleine, making known to the Holy Father how great is the devotion which the faithful in Canada cherish for the Most Blessed Virgin, venerated from ancient date in this shrine, addressed to him an urgent request that the statue of the Virgin be crowned there by apostolic authority, the August Pontiff, desirous that devotion to the sublime Mother of God should increase from day to day, and happy also that the Jubilee of the Immaculate Conception be marked with a monument of loving devotion, whose memory will pass on to posterity, has benevolently deigned to acquiesce to the request by authorizing your most illustrious and most reverend Lordship to carry out in the name of the Sovereign Pontiff the ceremony of solemn coronation. It is most pleasing to me to be able to announce to you this evidence of the special goodwill the Holy Father holds for you, and I seize this occasion to again call myself with sentiments of the highest esteem. Your most illustrious and most reverend Lordship's devoted servant, Reverend Cardinal Marian del Val. The event was set for October 12th, and preparations began without delay. Starting with the July issue, the annals under Father Jean-Pierre sets the tone of celebration. Great news! The Vicar of Jesus Christ has just bestowed the astounding honor of coronation upon Our Lady of the Cape. This favor from Pope Pius X will bring joy to the hearts of all Canadians. And again, we do not see only the restricted confines of one diocese. It is the love of a nation which inspires and prepares these magnificent solemnities. This is an affair for all Canada. It is a national feast we must celebrate. Other dioceses join in the chorus of preparation to make the coronation of Our Lady of the Cape a truly national affair. In Quebec, they rejoice in the selection of their own Archbishop Bégin to be the special preacher for the occasion, and they note it will be exactly 9 years to the day, October 12, 1895, that he performed the same function at the coronation of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Montreal announces it, and the Review Valleyfield says that the crowning will be for Canada, a dominant note in the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the definition of the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. As the time draws nearer, the grandeur of the manifestation that is going to take place in a little town whose name many of the participants would be hearing for the first time becomes manifest. For 2 weeks before the feast, the Three Rivers newspaper reflects the growing excitement as every issue passes on the latest word from the authorities at the shrine and from the bishop's palace. The city is to be the scene of a meeting of all the bishops of Canada on October 13th, and on the previous day, crowds will throng in from every direction to join these bishops in celebrating the single honor paid to Canada's national Madonna by its saintly Pope. Great event! His Excellency the Apostolic Delegate will be at Three Rivers on Tuesday, October 11th. A ceremony which will be remembered forever. The crowning of the statue of Our Lady of the Rosary will take place on October 12th. Merchants are asked to keep their stores closed from morning till noon. We shall all go en masse to Cape de la Madeleine. Archbishops and bishops will be there. We are asked to illuminate Champlain Square and the surrounding district and to give a concert there. The bishop's palace will be illuminated. The city should be decorated from the 11th to the 13th inclusive. Families who have bedrooms available are asked to put them at the disposition of the clergy. They are respectfully requested to give their names and the number of rooms available. As for Cape de Madeleine itself, the town was quite simply given over to the occasion. What a triumph of history! What a fulfillment! Triumph for the men who made their first action in this territory a literal planting of the cross. Fulfillment for the handful of men, women, and children who had walked the paths of this settlement from one little household shrine to another, praying Our Lady for courage, perseverance, and aid to make this little island of Christianity a fertile field that would spread its seed throughout the land. Triumph for Father Bouteau, who had first taught the Rosary at Cape Madeleine. Fulfillment for Father descendent, who had seen in neglected deeds the instrument to revive dying souls, the means of filling an empty church. Triumph for Father Frederick, who had foreseen this day on June 22nd, 1888, at a moment no one else shared his vision. Fulfillment for Bishop Boutier, who had said in his pastoral of December 8, 1902, the pastoral which announced the arrival of the Oblates and the definitive organization of the shrine. We do not think it reckless on our part to hope that one day all the people of our country will render homage to our divine protectress in the national shrine of the Holy Rosary, and triumph for the Oblates, who in 2 short years had brought all this about. It is a measure of the change in the shrine's status from local to national fame that we can gather the account of the coronation ceremonies from reports in major newspapers other than that of Three Rivers. Montreal was Canada's largest city and its largest newspaper. La Presse made the celebration at the Cape its most important news story for days before and after the event. The English language press in Quebec, Montreal, and Toronto, the nation's 3 principal cities, even in secular dailies, which did not cater particularly to a Catholic leadership, recognized the occasion as important news. Feverish activity had transformed the old shrine. The interior of the chapel had been entirely renovated. The old box-like annex had been replaced by the present roomy cruciform building with place for almost 1,000 pilgrims. Its dome received a statue of the Immaculate Conception donated by the contractors. A huge tent had been raised in front of the chapel to house the open-air ceremonies. The Oblates, who had done all this work, made the occasion possible, completed the complex arrangements, and saw to their smooth functioning, had themselves a background position in the ceremonies themselves. A triduum preceding the coronation was preached by a Jesuit on the first day, a Dominican on the second, and a Franciscan on the third. The apostolic delegate, representing Pope Pius X, came to preside over the candlelight procession on the eve of the feast. His voice was one of several to call the Cape a national place of pilgrimage. On one occasion he said, "It is a great happiness for me to know that our Divine Mother has chosen a place on the banks of the St. Lawrence in your diocese in which she accords special graces, not only to all the faithful of Three Rivers Diocese, but also to all her children in Canada." In closing the tribute, Father Columban, provincial of the Franciscans in Canada, said, "Wearing her crown of glory, Our Lady of the Cape is setting forth to conquer all hearts, and from this day forth, a man will have to be blind or deprived of his senses to fail to recognize that the shrine of the Cape is the national shrine of Canada. O Virgin of the Cape, we have known you in your lowliness. We shall see you in glory. We are going to see you, crowned like a queen, going forth to conquer the whole nation." On the day itself, the ceremony began at 10:30, under the canopy where the miraculous statue had been installed for the occasion. His Excellency, the Apostolic Delegate, celebrated the Holy Sacrifice in the presence of 7 of the 8 archbishops who then constituted the Canadian Episcopate. All the bishops of the province of Quebec were present, except the bishop of the new diocese of Joliet. With the addition of Bishop Michaud of Burlington, Vermont, there was a total of 16 archbishops or bishops. Canada from coast to coast was gathered together by Our Lady of the Rosary in an obscure little village of Quebec. As Father Paul-Henri Barabie, President Superior of the Guardians of the Shrine, has put it, when we hear the Archbishop of Ottawa sounding the glories of Mary in the language of Shakespeare, after the Metropolitan of Quebec had just praised her in accents worthy of Rousseau, we cannot help seeing in all this the intervention of divine providence, wishing to announce the reign of Our Lady from one ocean to the other. Bishop Coutier, who had the distinction of acting for Pope Pius X in placing upon the head of French Canada's own queen the crown donated by her Irish subjects, said in his talk, "Thanks be to God, thanks be to Mary, who having named her humble shrine a place of private pilgrimage, then a diocesan pilgrimage, now deigns in this day of great solemnity to make it known as a national shrine. The actual moment of the coronation must, from every account, have been one charged with emotion. The bishop approached the statue, robed in pontifical splendor. Behind him came the poorly clad, ascetic-looking, humble figure of the good Father Frederick, his two hands outstretched, before him bearing on a silken cushion the shamrock-girdled crown. The crown was blessed, Father Jonquière writes, and while the cannon boomed and the bells rang out wildly, the prelate placed on the head of Our Lady of the Cape the sign of her power and her royalty. An indescribable emotion ran through the crowd. It was like a magnetic current which passed over their faces, over their hearts, shaking them, possessing them. There were tears in every eye. The moment was one that all present carried away with them to the four corners of Canada as an unforgettable memory and a living invitation to spread devotion to Our Lady of the Cape. 48 years later, His Excellency Alfred Smet, the late Archbishop of Winnipeg, who had accompanied the apostolic delegate as secretary, wrote, "I recall that Bishop Chevretti was more pleased with the crowning of the statue than with anything that occurred at that time. He raved over it and constantly referred to it in conversation. If those in heaven can follow events on earth, Father Luc Disselette must have found this day of crowning in more senses than one."
Isn't that beautiful? So happy that a volunteer thing is done out. You know, when I found out, I was just so moved because you see how Our Lady is opening our eyes, waking us up anew. You know, that she is our Queen, she is our Mother. And I know that this volunteer, and I haven't seen it yet. You know, we asked, "We want to go a little bit earlier?" Well, he doesn't even understand because he speaks only French, so I won't embarrass him, but I'm speaking about you now. He, with loving care, has now, you know, really brought us a way to now rediscover really the history of Cape la Madeleine and to be able to go to the tombs of Father Luc and Father Paul, who exhibited that faith, who are entombed right underneath this altar. So we are going to take all of the names from before, the past centuries ago, and all of our names, and we're going to go down there, and we ask Bishop Tremblay to ask their intercession, because it was Bishop Tremblay that now, in this day, has re-established enrollment in the Confraternity of the Most Holy Rosary on the feast of Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal, who Our Lady of the Cape is fashioned after. So, Donald, can you lead the way?